Kingdom Hearts 358 over 2 days. That one DS game that I myself did not bother to get because I ended up having myself a PSP and Birth by Sleep looked a little bit better. 358 over 2 days allows you to take control of Roxas as you end up going day by days of the 358 days in the Organization 13. But considering the fact that Nomura really loves to put in other characters in his game, he decides to slap on Xion as she is number 14 of the organization and ends up joining both Roxas and Axel's relationship as they end up realizing that things is not quite what it seems to be enjoying of the Organization 13 life. And that's kind of what we're here for today. For today's Code Pika video, we're actually going to be focusing on the movie of 358 over 2 days. I will be interjecting a bit of the gameplay elements for 358 because even though I didn't really play the game and I really don't feel like utilizing the obvious method because my computer can barely run those, I decided to go ahead and say, you know what? I think it might be best for me to just have like a way of talking about the battle system. Anyways, let's go on and talk about Kingdom Hearts 358 over 2 days. There's nothing else there. That's it. Okay, let's go. Kingdom Hearts 358 over 2 days was a DS game that was obviously released for those who were unable to afford a PSP. So if you were a kid who was trying to end up asking your parents, Mommy, I want myself a new Kingdom Hearts game. Ooh, then what system do you have? Oh, I have myself a DS. Cool, you're gonna get yourself 358 over 2 days. But my brother has Birth by Sleep. That game looks more appealing. I mean, to be fair, they kind of both end up having their ups and downs, so there's really no good or bad. You end up taking control of Roxas throughout the majority of the story of 358 over 2 days, and here you will end up finding that the game is completely different from past Kingdom Hearts games. For one thing, you only end up taking control of Roxas, you only end up having either 1 or 2 party members, similar to the old Kingdom Hearts games, and you might end up noticing that your magic is limited. Oh, what's that? Oh, magic is limited. Oh, no. Yes, so before you end up beginning 358 over 2 days, you end up obviously getting the introduction of the game, where Xion is saying a quote that he says in Kingdom Hearts 2, where he says, "Merciless, heartless runs free," and that they scatter, and as their hearts are released, they will form the place known as Kingdom Hearts. The only reason why Roxas exists, and it's kind of a good thing for Xemnas, is that he ends up having the Keyblade to be able to be the only person to release hearts from the Heartless, which really begs the question, how the hell was the Kingdom Hearts Moon slowly getting all of its hearts anyways? And then you kind of end up remembering that, oh yeah, Riku and Sora exist, so they can kind of end up bashing like Keyblades and Heartless and stuff. I forgot that exists. That is a thing, you know, like, in all honesty, that actually is a thing. Anywho, during the time of this, obviously Roxas has like zero memory of who he used to be, so he's kind of a little bit distant and doesn't really talk as much to Axel, but Axel is a bro and he ends up trying his damnness to end up calmingly talking with Roxas and getting to know him a bit. He ends up helping him out by giving him some sea salt ice cream, which they rob for like every single mission that they end up completing. Seriously, this guy is out of business at this point. And he ends up basically befriending Roxas because, well, since Axel did sort of meet Ventus, he's kind of obligated to end up, you know, talking with Roxas and getting to know him. I guess it's mainly because Axel is reminded of Ventus, even though he's not supposed to have any sort of memories of his human form. But hey, you know what? Sometimes the organization thing of the no heart system is always contradicting itself sometimes. Anyways, moving on from that, during this time, Xion also ends up entering the mix, except when she first joins, she kind of ends up not really talking at all or end up saying anything, because as I stated before, she is created in this game. Oh yeah, I actually didn't really state that. No, okay. Xion is actually created. She's created by Vexen as a role to be able to take over Roxas's duty in case he is not able to fulfill it. This is pretty important because this is kind of the reason as to why Xion kind of looks like a black-haired Kairi, because obviously she kind of ends up having a bit of memories from Sora and a little bit of Roxas as well. This is also pretty bad too, considering the fact that during the time in the story, Xion will start to end up having these bits of moments where Sora ends up dealing with in Chain of Memories, alongside with Riku and Kairi and all that other stuff. because she has like a lot of memories inside her brain, and it's kind of really not good for her, to say the least. As soon as she's finally warmed up during one mission, she ends up talking with Roxas for the first time, and, she ends up introducing herself, saying that, hello, I'm Xion, we can be friends. And it's also revealed that she can use the Keyblade as well, which is kind of the thing that Xemnas is expecting, because as I stated before, she's used as a substitute in case Roxas is unable to fulfill his mission. So as time is going on, the story is going, you probably are wondering, what is the gameplay really like for 358 over 2 days? Well, it's more so akin to the Pokemon Mystery Dungeon. What I mean is that, like Pokemon Mystery Dungeon, the only way to progress through the stages or the story, you have to do certain missions to be able to end up progressing. This is the same thing for Kingdom Hearts 358 over 2 days. There are certain missions that will progress the story and certain missions that won't progress the story. You end up having your missions that do end up progressing the story that can be a little bit tough if you're not fully prepared, because some of them can be annoying bosses or annoying gimmicks, whichever, and there are also some missions that allows you to just get some prizes and some items as well. Because the way how you level up in Kingdom Hearts 358 over 2 days is not the same as you did in the past games. You have to end up utilizing level up blocks, which you end up putting inside these block systems that allows you to implement abilities and whatnot. It's kind of insane and also kind of crazy. So you essentially can be able to customize Roxas as you see fit, which sounds good on paper. The problem is the level up blocks you have to put in if you want to level up. If you don't, you're not going to level up at all, which is a little bit of a problem for some newer players who end up starting with 358 first, because if you're not familiar with Kingdom Hearts' battle system, you're going to have a bit of a hard time. You're also limited on magic. Yeah, that's right. You are limited on magic. Like in Kingdom Hearts past games, if you have magic, you can obviously use it for unlimited amount of times as long as you have magic. But in 358, however, it's similar to the Mystery Dungeon games, where you only have a limited number of times you can utilize magic. And you might be wondering, what's the problem with that? Why is that such a bad thing? Well, for one thing, you're limited on magic. Two, you have certain Heartless that is super weak to elemental attacks, and if you decide to willy-nilly spam your spells like it's nothing else, you will be at a very huge disadvantage for certain Heartless that are weak to certain magic abilities such as Thunder, Fire, and Ice. So yeah, also Cure is also limited as well, so be mindful. What's also kind of funny though is that each magic works differently. They don't work the same. Like Fire can be a little bit of a home seeker. Thunder can probably only end up hitting one specific area. You can have an AoE cure spell. It's kind of crazy. It's interesting on paper, but the thing is that it doesn't work for single player. The game is more so fixated on being like a multiplayer like game where you utilize different types of people to be able to end up finishing missions and whatnot. But the thing is though is that you're not going to be able to do anything multiplayer-ish, and the story is not really multiplayer, at least to my knowledge. I don't really think it is, but you're not going to be able to do anything multiplayer if you live in the West. The reason why I say that is because the unfortunate sad thing about 358 is that it is local multiplayer. So unless you have friends or you use the method of an online feature from the thing, you know what I mean, then you're unfortunately not going to be able to end up playing this game multiplayer. I've never really seen people play multiplayer on any of their playthroughs of this game, unless you end up really finding super hard of somebody actually playing multiplayer. But yeah, if you live in Japan, however, you'll probably have a much easier time because, hey, everybody is living together in those kind of areas because everybody has the game. Because everybody loves Kingdom Hearts. So everyone, if you have it, your friends have it, it's all going to be good. But it is kind of freaking crazy when you really think about it. I do like the concept around the battle system. It ends up being something that I wish that they implemented into the Unchained online Kingdom Hearts game, you know, the one with the back cover and all that. I kind of wish that they implemented it there because it kind of does make sense. It feels like a glorified gameplay element that will work for an online MMO style Kingdom Hearts game, which I still don't believe why they still haven't done that yet. Anyways, as you end up progressing through the story, you'll eventually end up getting interaction with Riku, and Riku is just basically being the protector of Sora as Naminé is trying to implement memories back into him. Unfortunately, Naminé is having a little bit of problems because since Xion exists, and also Roxas, but more so Xion is kinda slowing the progress of Naminé being able to implement the memories back into Sora. So Riku unfortunately has to, say some stuff about Xion, saying that she kind of more so sucks as an organization member and that she doesn't really deserve the Keyblade. And at some point he ends up meeting Mickey. Mickey kind of only shows up in one scene and they have a little conversation. Mickey ends up seeing Riku in his Ansem-like form. But yeah, Riku is in his Ansem form, and that's mainly because, that's his true darkness nature, so to speak, because, he's still fighting the darkness inside him. But as time goes on, things get a little bit complicated. Axel starts to hide things from Roxas. Saïx becomes a jerk by saying that Xion is nothing but a puppet, and, so on and so forth. Xion tries to force Axel to take her down, and Roxas ends up being very confused as to what is really going on. And at some point, Roxas just leaves. He just leaves the organization because he's just sick and tired of what's happening. Problem is, Saïx tries to stop him. He beats him down. Xigbar tries to stop him. He beats him down. And then he manages to escape. But the thing is that he doesn't know where to go. During that time, Xion comes into the mix and says, hey, you know what? Here's some ice cream, but I need you to look at something for me. If I look like Sora, that means it's almost time for me to go. And I need to do one more thing. I need to absorb your power, so that way I can end up fulfilling my mission. But Roxas ain't having any of that. And then both him and Xion ends up having a scrap, Roxas becoming the victor, obviously, and this obviously ends up sporting Xion's death, with Roxas saying a very wholesome quote, even though it's been memed on to hell and back.
No. Xion. Who else will I have ice cream with?
This line is obviously out of context. If you kind of have no context behind the scene, it's very hilarious. But the scene ends up having a bit of a deeper meaning. Since both her, Roxas, and Axel always have shared sea salt ice cream throughout the majority of the story, the sea salt ice cream is a bit of a bonding item for them. And it's not only just an advertisement for Nomura being like, hey, I went to Disney and got some sea salt ice cream. Yay, I want to implement it into the game. But nah, to be fair, the ice cream is a symbol for their friendship, and it's actually the reason as to why Roxas ends up saying that line. Yes, he could have said anything else in the game. He could have said anything more heartwarming rather than who else will I have ice cream with, because I'm pretty sure if my pet died, I probably would tell him that too. Who else will I bark at the moon with? That makes no sense to me whatsoever. Anywho, as Roxas ends up fulfilling his mission of taking down Xion, he ends up basically leaving the organization and obtaining both Keyblades in hand. He ends up meeting Riku and beats him down crazy like because he is OP with 2 Keyblades and Riku only has 1. Riku ends up tapping into his inner darkness and becomes Ansem and uses the Guardian to end up holding Roxas tightly as he ends up knocking him out. This allows both Diz and Riku to end up putting Roxas in his place and send him to the alternate Twilight Town, which is essentially the tutorial area in Kingdom Hearts 2's beginning story. And that's kind of the end of 358 over 2 days. Aside from the battle system being what it is, and aside from the few worlds that you end up visiting, which is only just Neverland, Olympus Coliseum, Beast Castle, Alice in Wonderland, Agrabah, and the world it never was, which is being like a hub world. I might be missing a world, but that's kind of pretty much it. 358 overall is like what, a 2 to 3 hour cutscene story if you kind of watch the movie, but it's a very long game. if you decide to 100% it. There is a lot of things that are repetitive missions, which has like investigations, sneaking around, trying to end up defeating certain amounts of Heartless just so you can end up spawning actual special Heartless and beat that down, and among other things. When you first visit the world, you have to investigate it because obviously it's your first time being in the world, and then once you end up fulfilling your mission, there is also extra mission parts that you can do that allows you to end up gaining extra items. Sometimes you kind of want to do this so you can end up obtaining more power-ups for Roxas, because the only way that you're probably going to end up surviving in the game is if you actually end up doing that. I don't know if anybody actually did a run where they don't upgrade Roxas at all, and it probably will take a long time to defeat certain things in the game, because I don't think it's kind of recommended to do a no Roxas build. I don't think anybody would actually put that entire straight on themselves to do that, to be honest. I know I wouldn't. But yeah, 358 ends up basically helping you understand Roxas's feelings and his story, but unfortunately, I will end up admitting though, you kind of don't really end up feeling much of anything, because the majority of 358's story is kind of cut, because no one brings it up except for the ending portion of the game's story. They don't bring up Xion, because obviously they don't have any memories of Xion anymore, because those are wiped clean. They don't end up really bringing up anything with Axel related, because Axel doesn't even remember Xion either. The only thing Axel remembers is that, you know, he used to be Roxas's friend, and that's it. But he doesn't end up mentioning Xion because he also doesn't have any memory of her either. So it's really unfortunate. Like, 358 is important because Xion is an important character later down the road, but it's not important to really be invested to play. You'll probably just watch the movie once and that's probably it. And I guess that's probably the reason why they decided to make the movie for both this game and for Recoded specifically, because the gameplay for both of those games are unfortunately repetitive, and that's probably the problem with those two games. And I mean, hell, Dream Drop Distance managed to get an actual console re-release, so I don't really know. I guess Dream Drop Distance is just a little bit more innovative than those two other games. Whatever. So overall, my thoughts on 358 over 2 days, even though I never really fully played it at all, it's a game that you can try once, and if you end up liking Roxas as a character, you might end up enjoying the game fully. But I will end up recommending though, just watch the movie if you really want to end up watching cutscenes with better graphics, because you don't really like the whole weird faces of the actual original graphics, then I can't help you with that. Anyways, that is actually a very quick review, talk of 358 over 2 days. I'm impressed. Usually I would have gone on a little bit of hours. I'm going to try to not make certain types of videos too long, but then again, I don't really know what you guys like. You guys like long videos, short videos? What is it? I guess it really depends. Anyways, I've been Pika, and I'll be seeing you guys in the next installment. Sorry if that Kingdom Hearts took a little bit longer for me to get to. It's just that I was really questioning if I should actually play the game or just showcase movie clips instead. And I just decided to say the latter and just say, you know what, I'll just show movie clips instead and just, you know, give credit to the people who did manage to play the game, because it makes a little bit more sense. Look, 358 would be weird for me to even end up trying to play without actually using the actual hardware. Anywho, enough of me ranting. I'll see you guys in the next video. Have yourselves an electrifying day or night. Laters!